along Jackson Avenue. The Naperville JCs revealing a packed lineup. On Friday, Sammy and the Knights ignite the festival at 5 p.m., followed by Seventh Heaven, and then Saturday brings Buckshot Bully at noon, followed by Fearless and Two Hype Crew, closing the night out on Saturday. After months of renovation and expansion, Gail Borden Public Library District's South Elgin branch is officially reopening on Saturday at 127 South McLean Boulevard. The building has nearly tripled in size, now offering 12,000 square feet, featuring an expanded children's area, new study area, and multi-purpose rooms. Elgin is gearing up to celebrate its 25th annual New Citizen Recognition Ceremony, scheduled for 7 p.m. on June 24th at the Heritage Ballroom in the center of Elgin. The city is inviting all new citizens in the area to register for this special event, and participants will receive a certificate, a U.S. flag pin, and congratulations from Mayor Dave Captain. With your 1410 WRMN News Flash, I'm Sean Curdan.
I went hands-free.
I went hands-free.
I went hands-free.
I went hands-free with Skechers Slip-ins.
Join the millions of people who are celebrating going hands-free with Skechers Slip-ins. Footwear you just step into and they're on.
It's crazy how something as simple as a pair of shoes have made my life better.
After trying Skechers Slip-ins, I want all my shoes to have this technology.
See what everybody can't stop talking about. Go hands-free with Skechers Slip-ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/policy. That's ethos.com/policy.
Progressive presents the Sports Flash on News Talk Radio 1410 WRMN. The Cardinals and White Sox were rained out on the west side. They'll play a doubleheader today. Eric Fetty starts for the Cards in the first game against Sean Burke. The Sox are looking to snap a 6-game losing skid. The Brewers and Cubs were rained out on Wednesday at Wrigley Field. The makeup date has been pushed to August the 18th. The teams are set to conclude their series this afternoon. 121st pitch at Wrigley. Jamison Tyone starts for the Cubs against rookie Jake Mizorowski. The Cubs are the leader in the National League Central at 45-28. They've won 3 in a row and 6 of 10. Their advantage over second-place Milwaukee, 6.5 games, with the Cardinals and Reds 7 games out. NFL training camp report dates were released on Wednesday. The Bears scheduled for rookies to report on July the 19th, and then veterans due to Lake Forest on the 22nd. Bundle auto and home, renters, or condo, and save with Progressive.
I'm Chuck Sanders on News Talk Radio 1410 WRMN.
Find what you love, love what you find. A Total Wine and More. There's so much waiting for you. Spirits and beer, thousands of wines. Walk right through the door. It's all here to explore. With guides in the know and prices so low, it just might blow your mind. You're gonna find what you love and love what you find.
Drink responsibly, B21.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
This is Sarah Silver with your Fox Valley forecast. Dangerously hot and humid conditions from 10 a.m. Saturday to midnight Monday night. Today, mostly cloudy with a decent chance of rain and a high near 84. Gusty winds up to 30 miles per hour. Tonight, partly cloudy with a slight chance of rain and a low around 73. Currently, it is 76 and overcast. I'm Sarah Silver on the Talk of the Town, WRMN.
Working as a dedicated Fidelity advisor, I always ask, what's important to you? I'll look at those priorities and goals alongside your full financial picture to build a comprehensive plan designed to help grow and protect your wealth. With proactive portfolio insights and an eye on taxes, I'm here to help you make the most of your money. I'm Laura Maxwell, and I'm a dedicated Fidelity advisor. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Are you looking for a way to be creative right now? Have you ever wanted to learn to watercolor paint? You can now do that from the comfort of your own home with Zoom watercolor classes. get professional instruction from nationally showing artist Victoria Elizabeth. These classes are step-by-step, broken down with easy-to-understand instructions. They're affordable, too, at $15 for a 2-hour class. Visit her website at victoriaelizabethart.com to find out more. That's victoriaelizabethart.com. Every year in Illinois, over 30,000 drivers are arrested for DUI. Due to improper testing procedures, many people end up being wrongfully charged. The book DUI is Decoded cuts right to the chase and tells you how proper DUI's arrests are supposed to be made, from the initial traffic stop to the reasoning behind the field sobriety test, all the myths and facts about taking a breathalyzer, and more. DUI is Decoded is written by nationally recognized DUI expert witness William Pelarenos. Available now at Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com.
Well, welcome to another Friday live broadcast on WRMN 1410 AM from downtown Elgin. My name is William Pelarenos. I'm your host for the next hour. This is Life Experience is the name of our show, and we have a special guest, two special guests today. We have Liz Pol, who is a therapy dog handler, and we have the therapy dog in the studio. This is our first therapy dog in our studio. Matt McNeil, you told me that first dog guest, huh?
Well, no, not the first dog guest. We've had
first therapy dog.
I believe. Well, I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. I think.
All right, phone lines are open.
They're open 847-931-1410
on YouTube
and on YouTube.com at WRMN Radio.
All right, so now we're going to be talking about how therapy dogs assist people that have been traumatized. People that have PTSD and people that are have tendencies towards leaning towards suicidal thoughts. So, Liz, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, let's just so our listeners understand, there's a great difference between therapy dogs and service dogs.
There is.
So I got some notes here. Correct me if I'm wrong. An assistance dog or service dog is trained to assist specific patients with their day-to-day physical needs, where therapy dogs are trained to interact with all kinds of people, not just their handlers. Therapy dogs have calm demeanors, are friendly to strangers. A therapy dog is trained to provide affection, comfort, and support to people, often in settings such as hospitals, retirement homes, nursing homes, schools, libraries, hospices, disaster areas, and of course, military bases and police agencies, correct?
Yes, absolutely. That you've narrowed it down.
Okay. I took all these notes. I've been trying to stay on top because people confuse service dogs with therapy dogs.
They do. So the easiest way to remember it is the service dog is there to do a job for the individual. So if you have someone who has epilepsy, maybe the animal is there to train to maybe pick up on the episode coming upon, and they'll break the fall of the individual. So those are the dogs that you're going to see that have vests on that say, "Do not pet me, I am working." The therapy dog, on the other hand, will provide a service to everyone else. I'm the handler, I take him around, but he's there to provide the service to everyone. So whether it's children or adults, first responders, military, for the most part, this particular trauma therapy dog, Arlo, he provides a service for individuals who are experiencing depression, anxiety, emotional dysregulation issues. He brings a sense of calm to individuals when they're experiencing all of that.
Yes. You know what? And I've had the privilege of meeting Arlo twice. Last year, you brought him to the Polish American Police Association meeting.
Correct.
And just a few months ago, or last month, you were at the veterans meeting of Vietnam veterans and other veterans at the morning meeting on Dunkin' Donuts.
Yes, absolutely.
Over 100 veterans show up for this Dunkin' Donuts meetings on Tuesday. And the dog he walks through a crowd of 100 people like it's nothing.
Right. He goes person to person. It's incredible. He knows who hasn't actually interacted with him. So if he misses someone or someone comes in late, he makes it a point to make it over to those individuals, and he just, gets his love and affection, and he really just spends time with everybody.
Now, we're going to get some photos on YouTube going as soon as Matt moves around here. But I want to say that Arlo, and you give me a little note, Arlo is 7 years old.
Yep.
He's a Balmastiff, is that correct?
A Bull Mastiff.
Oh, Bull Mastiff, sorry. Yeah. I couldn't read my own writing. Bull Mastiff. And he's 7 years old, and really he weighs around 200 pounds.
Correct. Yeah, he's a big boy. I was told that most Bull Mastiffs are somewhere between 150 and 170, and of course I got the 200-pounder.
Yes, I've seen, and I got to say, in my life experience, and that's what the show's about, when it comes to service dogs, I've seen a lot of blind people with German Shepherds. Mm-hmm. But I've seen therapy dogs, and this is the first Bull Mastiff I ran into, but a lot of them seem to be golden retrievers.
Yeah, they usually use a lot of golden retrievers, golden doodles. They definitely want those breeds of animals that are very calm to begin with, because you can't just have any dog be a therapy dog. Initially, upon evaluation, at very first step, you have to see and make sure that the animal has that temperament that fits. They can be trained, they can be great obedient dogs, but if they don't have the temperament, that disqualifies them automatically. So initially, they are evaluated to see if they even have the temperament to be able to do this work. And then once that's been confirmed, they move on to the next steps to go on into training. Arlo had the temperament, obviously, and he pretty much had a lot of the obedience training instilled to begin with, because I've always trained my own dogs. But we went on to do the 18 months of training, and it's a lot of training regarding having him focus and not be, distracted by other animals, because he really has a job to do and he has to focus on that.
Yes, and you know what? It's unbelievable. I mean, people don't realize how much soothing and comfort just hanging around with a comfort dog, or I should say therapy dog, is it's overwhelming.
Right.
A friend of mine, he's lost 2 dogs. He's on his 3rd dog. Mm-hmm. And he was really bummed when his second one passed away. And it wasn't a therapy dog, it was his dog.
Yeah.
But in just talking in general of all dogs, he told me, Billy, a dog gives you unconditional love.
Right.
And I never forgot that statement.
Yeah. And it's interesting, these therapy dogs, it's not something that, just came out of the blue and people don't, just choose to, have a dog around. There's really a lot of evidence that shows, there are case studies out there that show how us as human beings, we crave that feel-good hormone, that oxytocin. And there's so many studies out there that show that these animals give us that. And that is really why we're using more and more therapy animals. And it's not just dogs, there are other animals, but the therapy dogs you're seeing more and more, especially in the first responder agencies and with the military, because they really do bring that sense of calm and that feel-good hormone. When I do training, which we'll get into a little bit, Arlo goes with me to most of my trainings as long as I can drive him, right? Because we can't put this 200-pound beast on a plane, or else someone will probably want to yell at me. So Arlo, when he's in training and we have some really intense scenarios and conversations around suicide and some of the stuff that we do, he actually has gotten up a number of times and walked over to the individuals that are in the scenario, because he can sense the tension and that anxiety that they feel. He just goes right on over to them, puts his head on their lap, or just leans on them just to kind of give them that support. So it's pretty incredible to watch. You know what? Dogs properly trained and have that technique. Dogs are smart to begin with. Yeah. I have no doubt about it. But just getting on the topic of dogs a little bit, I remember in the police department, we canine units. The canine unit actually tracked a bank robber. Here's a dog trained to track people and was able to track. That was his job, to track down culprits and stuff like this. Right. Then we had other dogs that were trained to find drugs. They walk around a car and sniff out the drugs. Yep. So a dog is smart to begin with, and with the proper training, just like a human being, you have an intelligent human being. With the proper training, you can teach them to do everything from being a doctor to being a firefighter to whatever. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so this dog is magnificent. I'm glad he's in the station today. He's stirring a little bit. Matt was taking some photos of him.
Okay.
And tell me a little bit before we move on to your organization. What is a bull mastiff exactly? Do
So
you know?
the bull mastiff is just another one of the breeds of the different mastiffs out there. You have the Great Danes; they're really tall and more slender.
Yeah.
They look like the horses, and then you have your other different mastiffs. You have French mastiffs, Italian mastiffs, Neapolitan mastiffs. There's just different.
Yes, I've heard of
different
Neapolitan.
brands. Yeah. And then the English is the biggest of them all. You know, they can go up to 240 pounds, which it's quite an animal. It's quite a size.
I noticed when you're trying to get the dog into your vehicle, you hit a ramp.
Yes.
You bring out a ramp.
Yes, he has a ramp. He has a ramp to get up because I can't carry him up, and he definitely can't jump up or down. So he has a ramp. It's quite a spectacle. When people are driving by, they're just kind of like, double takes, like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? So it's interesting.
That's magnificent. If you're following us on YouTube, Matt has a camera on Arlo here. I'm telling you, this dog looks big, and you may be a little intimidated when you first see him, but he is so gentle.
Yeah,
and really, it really worked out for the vets. The meeting you came to, about 30% of those veterans were Vietnam veterans.
Yes, it's incredible to see, and we're so grateful for them.
They were combat veterans.
Mm-hmm.
Then I remember you were at the police meeting, and one of the retirees, 30 years in the police department, he was overwhelmed by the dog. He laid down on the floor next to him.
Yeah,
it was like I remember when I was a father laying next to my daughter when she was small. I did that stuff, you know.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah, give him some love. I said, give him some love.
Yeah.
But it's unconditional love a dog gives you. So I want to explain something, and we talked about trauma and first responders. First responders include police officers, firefighters, paramedics, ambulance people. Those are, I was on a show, a man didn't know a police officer was a first responder. I go, hey, who's there when the car is upside down, people are trapped in it?
Right.
Who's there when there's been a shooting, a hanging?
Yep.
As a police officer, I went to many suicides, many, and many different forms. And the one I could never understand is hanging. Hanging, I think, is the worst way to go. I've seen people overdose on pills intentionally. We're talking about suicides.
Yes.
I've seen people shoot themselves, but the hanging to me is the worst possible death next to drowning or burning. But I would never go that route. But you have people with suicidal thoughts, and we have to move forward in helping these people. So actually, I met you because you have an organization, Resilient Heroes. Why don't you give us a little tidbit about that?
Sure. So just a little background about myself. So I am actually a first responder myself. I am a Chicago police officer. I've been on the job for 21 years. And I am also a mental health professional. I have a master's in forensic psychology. And my focus became trauma and suicide. And I started to get into this work, and I'm actually a certified suicide psychological autopsy investigator. I know many people haven't heard that before, but I essentially take a case of suicide of a first responder or military individual, and I work my way back from the time of the suicide, the day of the death, all the way back as far as we have to. In some cases, we may have to tap into childhood, because of a lot of those early childhood traumas that people forget, really, if not processed, do still have an effect on us as adults. So I work my way back, and I'm really trying to, from a psychological forensic route, I'm trying to answer the questions of why suicide, why that day, and why those means. And as I've done these suicide autopsies, it's incredible how much information has come out of them, more than the questions that we're trying to answer. And it really is just telling of all the factors that were present and contributed to the individual taking their life by suicide, as well as all those protective factors that we have and need to keep us going and hanging on, how those become diminished and those are absent. So it's really this just recipe for a disaster. There's so many elements. Suicide is so complex. And people are left with so many questions, more questions than answers when we have a suicide. And a lot of people I've learned really don't know much about suicide. We know that it's a horrific outcome. Everybody has an emotional response to it, and everyone feels that we should do more about this. But really, people don't know what it is exactly we should do. They don't even know how this even manifests itself. And so my work became a priority to really understand the suicides, get to the root of the problem, and try to understand how and if there's something that we can do more from a proactive standpoint to give information and the knowledge to our first responders and agencies and the military so that we can possibly reduce these or at least turn this around and avoid the likelihood of crisis for individuals and not wait for them to get to that point where it's too late and then we have these horrific outcomes. And so with all of that, I have been certified with curriculum and all that through the state, through a Let's Be, and I started a not-for-profit. And what I do is go around the country to different agencies and I present a trauma and suicide psychoeducation seminar where it really just, we talk about all those factors, all the things, talk about the job. And again, it does include police, fire, paramedics, dispatchers. Oftentimes people forget our dispatchers, but they're involved as well in the work. They take the calls and they are our lifelines. So those individuals experience a lot of trauma as well. And then we have our military. So really, essentially, it's providing a proactive approach and giving these individuals not just the knowledge, but the tools, right? The tool set for them to live healthy lives and provide self-care for themselves during and post their careers. We see individuals taking their life during their careers. We see them taking their lives in retirement. I think it's important to provide this at a recruit entry level. And all the information is pretty much the same, but it's really the way that you deliver it, right? Because when you're a recruit and you're new, there's really no experience there. So you have to, be careful how you provide the information versus in service and then pre-retirement, right? And pre-retirement, people don't realize, we're so quick to want to retire. We're like, oh, I can't wait. I want to get off this job. And once we get there and once we go into retirement, a lot of people don't realize the transition that is. It's a major life transition. This is not just a job, it's part of our identity. It's a lifestyle. And you do this for so many years and suddenly it's gone. And people don't realize that until after the fact. And there's a lot that you've gone through in your personal lives during the time on the job and on the job. And all of that now starts to kind of catch up. You start to think about it. People have a lot of regrets. And it really does take a toll on some individuals. So, and then we also have the leadership level where we're also trying to train certain individuals at supervisory levels from sergeant and on to the highest level to be able to understand all of this from a psychological standpoint. Because we're really great at doing our jobs in supervision, right, as leaders, carry out policy and make sure that we do all the things we have to do in a day with our troops, right? But a lot of us aren't really good at talking. A lot of us aren't really good at picking up anything that has to do from like a psychological behavioral standpoint. And so it's really just giving more tools to everybody at different levels and really just ultimately giving people the resources, the opportunity to understand, hey, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Anything on this job will catch up with you. And so if you find yourself there at that point, where do you begin? What do you do? What's going on with you? How do you figure that out? Who do you turn to? What are the resources? What different types of psychological therapeutic modalities are available to you other than talk therapy? Talk therapy isn't for everyone. It really isn't. And that's fine. It's not one size fits all. But what options are available to me instead of just, well, I'm not a talker. I don't want to do talk therapy. So I'm just going to continue to struggle on by myself and then spiral potentially. So it's really putting a lot of pieces in place from a proactive standpoint and really giving the information out, the knowledge that a lot of people just really don't have, and be able to at least pay attention to some of those red flags when they are present. Many times when I do these autopsies, so many times, and even when I was on patrol and I would respond to suicides for the public, I would notice that when I would ask people, hey, did you notice anything? Did anything appear, different? 9 times out of 10, people are always saying, no, everything was fine. We just went out with John to dinner last night and, he was laughing at dinner and we had a great time and everything was fine. I know that's not the case. There are things that are present. There are signs, there are some kind of indicators that are always there. But if we're not trained and we don't talk about it and we're not aware, how do we pick up on them? It's not until after the fact that people are just able to realize, oh, well, now that you mention it, I do recall this, that, and the other. But I had no idea that that was an indicator.
I'm glad you make that point because people are caught in their everyday grind.
Yep.
They don't see what's happening around them. You know what I'm saying? They don't realize that these people are falling apart. And of course, if somebody's screaming, we're going to pay attention to them. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. But there's people that keep stuff internally. I've always found, at least for me, it worked out because what's the point of telling my family what I've been through other than funny stories? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. What's the point of telling them I dealt with 2 suicides on the day before Thanksgiving? That's how I started out my Thanksgiving Eve one shift. Mm-hmm. 2 suicides the same day, and you're dealing with all the stuff you're going. And my son made a good point when I used to do classes before COVID. I used to go to high schools and talk about evidence processing and evidence technicians, CSI stuff. Mm-hmm. And my son made a good point that, and I told him I go from this suicide to that homicide, one after the other. And he says, you become desensitized to it. And yes, because you don't know these people, you go from one to the other. But you don't have time to think about it. You're going through your shift, sometimes overtime, a double shift, you're tired. Then as we were talking before, you got to get up in the morning, take the kids to school, come back in a couple hours sleep, go to court, come back, get an hour's sleep, pick up the kids from school, right, and then get ready to go to work again. You don't have time. But in retirement, and you mentioned this, now a lot of these incidents are coming back. Mm-hmm. I don't like to go to sleep. I'm telling you the truth. I don't like to go to sleep. I deal with it, but I don't like to go to sleep. And it isn't the suicides. It isn't the car crashes that I dealt with. My son was right. You become desensitized. You see so much. It's just like a combat veteran. You've seen so much, you become desensitized. But what bothered me is the fatalities of children. That's what really, even before I was a father, dealing with the fatalities of children. Mm-hmm. And I never forget some of these crime scenes, and a photograph will not explain it to you. Right. Of course I'm not suicidal.
No, absolutely
but
not.
You deal with it in your own way, and my way is just to keep it internally. Right. Now, I can talk with you because you understand. Yeah. But I had a detective, and I wanted to talk about the death of an infant. And here's a detective. I don't want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Here's a grown man with 27 years in the police department. Couldn't talk about it.
Right. And it happens more often than not. And I'd like to go back to how you mentioned in retirement and now how you have the time, right? You have the time to really just have that come up and really think about all of that, especially when you go to sleep. And one of the things that exists are intrusive thoughts. As first responders, we have those intrusive thoughts that come back at the worst time. Sometimes when we're playing with our own children and you have a child case that you dealt with, sometimes you're sitting there and you're present, but physically, but mentally you're not, because you're taken back to maybe the case of a child that you dealt with. Something about your children, just the fact that it's other children triggered that. And a lot of times we have those intrusive thoughts come into our head when we lay our heads on the pillow and we go to sleep. Sometimes in our sleep, we end up having nightmares. It wakes us up. Sometimes we can't fall asleep because our minds are going a mile a second, and it's all those intrusive thoughts. You can't stop thinking about that stuff. And that is a really big sign of not having processed the trauma. It's not that we can't handle trauma. As first responders, we're great at it, actually, because we show back up and we continue to deal with more and more and more, and there's more trauma. However, it's not processing those traumas.
Hold on that thought. We got to go on a break. Stay with us. Listen to the news break. We'll be back in 3 minutes with Liz Pol here talking about therapy dogs and trauma and these other factors that we've been talking about. Stay with us. Our phone lines will be open till 1 o'clock. Thank you.
With your 1410 WRMN News Flash, I'm Sean Kernan. Brought to you by Sky Rizzy. After months of renovation and expansion, Gail Borden Public Library District's South Elgin branch is officially reopening on Saturday at 127 South McLean Boulevard. The building has nearly tripled in size, now offering 12,000 square feet, featuring an expanded children's area, new study area, and multi-purpose rooms. Elgin is gearing up to celebrate its 25th annual New Citizen Recognition Ceremony, scheduled for 7 p.m. on June 24th at the Heritage Ballroom in the center of Elgin. The city is inviting all new citizens in the area to register for this special event, and participants will receive a certificate, a U.S. flag pin, and congratulations from Mayor Dave Captain. Naperville's last Fling Festival is set to pack Labor Day weekend with live music along Jackson Avenue. The Naperville JC is revealing a packed lineup. On Friday, Sammy and the Knights ignite the festival at 5 p.m., followed by Seventh Heaven, and then Saturday brings Buckshot Bully at noon, followed by Fearless and Two Hype Crew closing the night out on Saturday. With your 1410 WRMN News Flash, I'm Sean Kernan.
Summer days just got even brighter with Kohl's epic deals. Get this, you can score tees for just $5.99, bedding for 60% off, comfy shorts only $7.99, and so much more. You do not want to miss out. Shop Kohl's epic deals for savings on all things summer now, before it's too late. Select styles, some exclusions apply. Offer ends June 22nd. See store or Kohls.com for details.
What was that? That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud Phone System. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very
calm. I am. Ooma has everything I need to handle the busy holiday season, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business comm at ooma.com/radio.
Real estate, be it residential or commercial, is often a person's most significant and priciest asset. Entering into a contract to buy or sell a real estate property is much more than just filling in the missing blanks on the printed contract. It's wise to hire a lawyer to prepare or review the offer to purchase real estate and take full advantage of his legal expertise. With Mark Sheblo, you will gain an attorney with over 26 years of legal practice and one who has helped thousands of clients to buy or sell their homes or investment property. We will safeguard your interests and might be able to even negotiate a better bargain than a client without proper legal counsel ever could. Oftentimes, a prospective buyer will submit an offer without first consulting an attorney, not realizing that once the offer is accepted by the seller, it becomes a binding contract. And the terms of that contract are not easy to be changed afterwards. Likewise, as a seller, you too will benefit from first consulting an attorney before signing. Feel free to call us for consultation at the law offices of Mark Sheblo at 773-775-5050. Our website is sheblolawoffice.com. Mark Sheblo can be reached 6 days a week at 773-775-5050.
This is Sarah Silver with your Fox Valley forecast. A heat advisory is in effect from 10 a.m. Saturday to midnight Monday night in the listening area. This afternoon, partly sunny with a chance of rain showers and a high near 84. Tonight, partly cloudy with a slight chance of rain showers before 7 p.m. and a low around 73. Currently, it is 78 and overcast. I'm Sarah Silver on the Talk of the Town, WRMN.
Here's Comedians and Sketchers Getting Comfortable, presented by Hands-Free Skechers Slip-Ins.
Hey, I'm Bobby Slayton, and I'm here with my pal, comedian, and Skechers ambassador, Mr. Howie Mandel.
Why did it take so long to invent something as amazing as Slip-Ins? I know it seems simple, but it took Skechers to invent a better pair of shoes.
Yep, with Skechers Slip-Ins, you just step it and go. You don't have to touch your shoes. And by the way, Slip-Ins are for the whole family, men, women, and kids. In all your favorite Skechers styles, find Skechers Slip-Ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
We are back to Life Experience with William Pelarenos. And if you're following us on YouTube, if you look between me and my guest here, we have a beautiful therapy dog. And that's what we're talking about, how therapy dogs help people that have been traumatized or have PTSD, including our military, our veterans, our police officers, paramedics, firefighters, and dispatchers that deal with the everyday 911 calls. My guest here is a police officer, Liz Pol, who is also part of this organization called Resilient Heroes, which is a non-for-profit organization, a nonprofit, a 401c, and or 501c3 rather, and it's a charitable donation that their agency goes out with the therapy dogs and does a 4-hour or 8-hour class to police departments, fire departments, and so on. Correct, Liz?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's talk about a little what your organization does. They give a 4-hour or 8-hour class, right?
So whichever agency chooses to host a day for us to come out, and we set it up based on the organizational needs of the agency. I understand from manpower and all. We can do a full 8-hour day, right? We do 4 hours, a lunch, and then 4 hours, or we can do 2 half days. It really depends. I fly out sometimes, and this is again done nationally. So I'll go to agencies depending on what they need. I'll fly out. We'll provide the seminar. And the idea of it being a not-for-profit was important because of the fact that a lot of times agencies across the country, their budget and their the way that everything's set up financially, all the mandated annual training is the first thing that the funds have to go towards. And so we end up having a lot of agencies that don't really have the funding or the budget left over for training like this that's so important for the well-being of their members. And so my thinking was we need to do a not-for-profit. That way we can get this information, this knowledge to the officers, and then the agencies don't have to worry about if funding is an issue. So we obviously are not a self-sustainable organization. We take donations, we do fundraising, we try to look for grants in order to make this continue to run and be able to get this to the agencies. But yes, if anyone is interested, they can absolutely get in contact with me, and we'll set it up to have this, meet the needs of the organization. And yeah, it's all trauma and suicide psychoeducation. And the website, the organization is Resilient Heroes. I am the founder of it. It is www.resilient-heroes.com. And on there, you could either look for my emails on there, my phone number, all of that is there for people to read and understand. You can see where we've been, what we've been doing. You can also subscribe, and we send out a weekly newsletter because we like to keep everybody informed on what we're doing and what we have done. We're very big on impact metrics, so making sure that we are actually having impact and we're having an effect on different agencies and different members out there. So we really share a lot of what we're doing and what's coming up. So it's a good way to stay in contact and understand what's happening.
Now, it's interesting, during the break, you told me you not only run around all Illinois, you also go to other states. You were recently at Denver, correct?
Denver, Colorado has been an agency that we've gone to. We've been in Florida. We've been in St. Louis. We've been at conferences as well. Like I mentioned, Arlo does come with me as long as we can drive, but if we fly, he has to stay back, and then I just fly out.
Now, what's interesting about the Denver, you told me the Denver police invited you out there. They were to host the agency, but they also invited suburban police departments to jump in.
Correct, yeah. If the agency is large enough where they want to keep it in-house and not really just have it for their members, that's fine. But we have had agencies that have hosted, say, for instance, Denver, hosted the location and then put the invite out to other agencies, because that's the idea. We want to be able to reach everyone we can. And it's not just police. It's, again, fire, paramedics, the dispatchers. In some cases, we even have sometimes state's attorney's office individuals come in. And so really, it's just to really get this knowledge and information, because everybody's involved. It's everybody's business when it comes to the suicide of our first responders or military. If you don't have these individuals in the right state of mind, if they're not healthy, if they're not able to do the job, then who's going to be out there to do this? Who's going to be out there to respond and be able to take on as much as they do? So it's everyone's business. And suicide is a major problem For the longest time, we've seen the numbers continue to climb. It's not getting better. I do appreciate and like that across the country, we're doing better with wellness being a priority now, and everybody's really having a lot of wellness in their agencies. But everyone stops at mental health. That's it. It doesn't go on past to suicide. Here's the thing. It's very difficult. It's not an easy topic of discussion, and it's very taboo within our culture to talk about. However, what we're doing isn't working. And what we've been doing is the cycle of insanity, I call it, where we have a suicide. Everybody can agree that it is absolutely horrific. Everyone has an emotional response to it. However, 5 to 7 days after we've laid the person to rest, everyone's back to business as usual. That's insanity. We're sitting there just kind of waiting for it to change on its own, and it's not going to happen. So as difficult as the conversation is to have, and a lot of people don't know much about it, it's time to break that. And so I feel sometimes some agencies may not know what to say and how to bring up this information because they themselves may not be trained or educated on it. But here we're trying to really, this is a evidence-based approach, and we do have the data. As I've done these autopsies, I've really dug into many suicides and some suicides of some individuals who have actually even lived after their attempt. I've spoken to those individuals as well to understand and really have confirmation on, which is great, groundbreaking work for me and my, nerdy element of work, because it tells us and it confirms that we are on the right path. And so really trying to be more proactive is the way, instead of sitting here and just continuing to be reactive to the suicides.
Yes, let's stay on the topic of suicide for a minute. I handled a lot of suicides as a policeman, and I found, maybe it was just me noticing, but during the holidays, I thought was an uptick in suicides between around Thanksgiving to New Year's. I happened to, for some reason, I just happened to notice an uptick in suicides during that time. And I can understand it if somebody's very depressed, and then they see all these other people happy, jumping around, and Christmas carols. I think it makes them worse.
With suicide, there are so many factors, and one of the biggest misconceptions that people have is that there's one particular reason, right? So if John's going through a divorce, it's because of the divorce that John killed himself. Well, no, that's not necessarily true. The divorce may have been one of the factors involved, but there's so many others. And one of the things about suicide is no one wakes up living a happy, great life where everything's pretty decent. You wake up one day and you randomly decide, you know what, I think I'm just going to kill myself. It doesn't work that way. This is something that's been a long time coming. People contemplate for periods of time, and then maybe they're not contemplating as much, and then something comes along, another event that maybe triggers them, and then they go back to contemplating again. But there is no coincidence about when it happens, right? When we do these, I mentioned we're looking to answer the questions of why suicide, why that day, and why those means. We know that with first responders, the police, about 90% or more of those individuals, it will be the service weapon because of the availability of that duty weapon, right? They have that available to them more than the firemen, the dispatchers, and so on. So, but every case is different. Every case has a little bit more of this or a little bit more of that. And it really just varies on the individual. And it's not really just the job. Everybody turns and thinks, thinking that the job is the main reason. It's a lot of personal life issues as well, and so many different areas. I've seen so much in these autopsies that people don't even begin to consider. Traumatic brain injuries are big ones that go underdetected. People are not being treated for major head injuries with concussions and brain bleeds. And that starts to come out through behaviors, and it causes issues. Psychotropic medications, which are the medications that we take when it comes to our mental health. So a lot of people are on psychotropic medications for depression and anxiety and PTSD. And it's not that they're a problem. Some people really need to take those medications. However, it's the mismanagement of them. And there's so much information that people just don't know about them. And so that's a lot of what we cover in this curriculum. A lot of stress, a lot of sleep deprivation issues, mental and physical health. And you don't necessarily have to have mental illness to take your life by suicide. Some people do have those elements present and others do not. But it's just a variety, and we just cover and go through all kinds of the information. But it's something that's necessary to understand. It's kind of like back in the day when we first heard about the AIDS epidemic, right? People had no idea what it was, how you contracted it, what you could do to keep yourself safe or not, right? And so what did everyone start doing? They started having brochures and pamphlets in doctors' offices. They talked about it on the radio. They talked about it in school. They talked about it on TV. There were infomercials. That's psychoeducating. And so people started to understand what it was, what they can do or whatever to protect themselves, how they can test, what they can do in order not to contract this disease, right? And so what did we start seeing? The numbers eventually went down because people now were educated. People were informed, and they have decisions now, with options that they can make. And so that's what we need to start doing when it comes to suicide. Not just sit here and say, oh my gosh, this is just progressively getting worse. The numbers are through the roof. How do we stop this? We got to start talking about it. We have to start putting out the information that is factual and have people understand what they can or can't do. People are suffering in silence. And the sad part is a lot of people don't actually want to die. They just want to stop the pain. And that is what makes this work so necessary.
I'm glad you make a couple of key points here. Me, it's from my life experience as a police officer handling a lot of these suicides over 27 years on the job. Very few are mentally ill. A lot of these people are intelligent.
Very much.
Because I had to, who is this person that, here I get there, I have a deceased subject. Who is this person? What's he all about? Why did he commit suicide? Did he leave a note? Recently, I became aware of a suicide. The lady wrote an individual apology to each of her family members. Mm-hmm. She was in a clear state of mind. Mm-hmm. This isn't just somebody that snapped. Mm-hmm. This was a predetermination to do this. You know what? You see these movies where somebody's going to kill themselves, and somebody knocks on the door, like A Man Called Otto. Did you see this?
I did not, actually.
Okay, he's going to hang himself, right? Tom Hanks, and somebody's knocking at the door. Folks, trust me, if somebody's going to hang themselves, they ain't going to go answer the door. They're not answering the phone. They're determined to do this, unless there's some kind of interceding, like your organization. Somebody can get to them before they get to that point that they've made the final determination to terminate themselves.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. As I sit with individuals and the methodology behind doing the suicide autopsies is through interview of some of the closest individuals of that deceased person. And as I go through them and I collect all that data through interview, once I'm compiling all of the data, I end up writing out about a 15 to 20 page report. And it's just sad for me to see how this manifests itself. And there's so many points when I'm sitting there talking with the family members and friends and coworkers of these individuals, and you see moments where, oh man, it's like a story that plays out, and you can see different key moments where we could have intervened, or if only we would have done this, and there would have possibly been a different outcome. So that's what makes me continue to want to do this work and really push this knowledge out, because there is a way that we could potentially reduce this, and we can turn it around in some cases. People just unfortunately have, at the time, their thinking is clouded. They have impaired judgment. They're not of the most sound mind. And there's just so much we get in our own heads. Perspective is everything. And some people really just start to believe certain things from their perspective that may not necessarily be true, but that's their perspective, that's their reality. And so that's where we have to just kind of really give the help and the resources for individuals not to get to that point.
Yes, that's where you have to break through that wall.
Yeah.
Yes, and the therapy dog is a great thing. I'm so relaxed for you, thanks to Arlo here. And your organization is a great thing. Give the website one more time. And, on that website, if I wanted to donate, I can, right?
Yes, absolutely. There are different pages on there, and there's donate buttons and pages at the bottom. On the last page, we do have all the information from our ID number from the IRS because we are a 501c3. So for tax purposes, it is tax deductible to the fullest extent of the law. And it's resilient-heroes.com. And like I said, at the very least, if you'd like to go on there and subscribe to the weekly newsletter, we put everything out, events. Usually there's pictures, anywhere we've gone, we put pictures up, what we've been doing, what's coming up, important information, a lot of literature a lot of the times. And also, if anyone ever had questions or was concerned, maybe there's somebody who's not sure of a situation with a coworker or somebody they know, I've had people reach out to me as well. Just say, hey, I don't even know where to go or where to turn to or do you have any resources? You can always reach out to me for that. I mean, we're here to make sure that we give as much help and resources as possible. The idea is that we try to avoid crisis, but even if people do fall into crisis, there still is a way to come back from it. We just don't want any more people to take their lives. Because let me tell you, I sit in front of these families even years after it's happened, and it leaves so much more destruction than anything else. And it's just something that we don't want to see. We don't want to lose any more members, and we don't want to cause any more destruction to those families.
Yes, and it's important. And there's no, there's no age group. I've handled suicides where it's teenagers, and I've handled suicides where it's elderly seniors, and in between, all in between. Not everybody leaves a note. So those that don't leave a note really is shallow because people don't understand. There's always a question, why did he do it?
Yeah.
Why? At least with the note, there's some explanation.
To some degree, yes. And to other degrees, not. Sometimes people just leave notes. They're very general, like, I'm sorry. I will say this. I am still looking for more cases. So if anyone does know of a first responder suicide that they would like to get in contact with me about regarding an autopsy, please contact me. I will say this. It doesn't change the outcome, these autopsies, obviously. However, there are a lot of family members and friends and coworkers that are left with more questions than answers. And I have found that when we're talking impact, there are a lot of family, friends, and so on that do have a sense of closure. They do get a sense of closure with this because there is information. Again, we don't have to agree with it. I surely don't. But we do start to maybe understand, like, okay, I see how this person may have gotten to this point. But however, moving forward, this is why we need to continue to do this work so that we can understand how and why this happens. And what, if anything, can we do moving forward so that we can reduce these outcomes? That's the whole idea. That's the mission here with Resilient Heroes.
Yes, and if you want to contact Liz, I'm going to put out your phone number.
Please do. Please do.
Right. So get a pen ready. There's the phone number. Liz Pol, her last name is Pol, and it's 773-842-9784. So that's 773-942. 842-9784. So 773-842-9784. Sorry for that snafu there. But also you got an email, Liz, L-I-S, @resilientheroes.com. I'm going to she has a little flyer here, if you're looking at it on YouTube. I'm going to put it on my Facebook, Pelarenos Police Project. I'm going to put a copy of this so you could always follow me, and I always post about my interviews and the guests that have been here. And several weeks ago, I had a retired doctor, a chemist, actually, and we were talking about binge drinking, people binge drinking. Now, a lot of high school kids are graduating high school and they're having prom parties and graduation parties. And we were talking about blood alcohol poisoning. But what we also don't understand, and the flip side of this, is people that use alcohol as a soothing agent, or how can...
Yes. So we talk about this a lot. And I mean, again, as a first responder, obviously the experience is there as a first responder. And then I have that mental health component. We do talk about things that typically no one wants to talk about. And alcohol or drug use, substance use, is a big contributing factor too. And I know some people sometimes, especially in this culture, because alcohol is very much present in this culture, people kind of shrug and they're like, oh God, now we're going to talk about alcohol. Well, yeah, we are. And here's the thing. As grown adults, there's nothing wrong with alcohol, right? Because people drink, they go to parties, they drinking now can be an experience, right? You go to a distillery and you do tastings. It's a full-on experience.
In moderation.
Right. However, when we talk about alcohol and the drug use, we're talking about when people use it as a coping mechanism. That's when we start to see people running into trouble. So understand that there's a difference there between the two. And so that's a lot of what we talk about also in the seminar. And it's really incredible because, again, as a officer who still sits in that trainee seat, for me, we know how it goes with training sometimes. We're just kind of like, oh, gosh, another training. You know, what time is lunch and what time are you cutting me out of here? That's kind of what we want to know, right? I find that a lot of the times the material may be great, but maybe the delivery isn't great. And so it doesn't resonate with us. So the design of this was very much thought out carefully. This is a very interactive approach. It's not like any other training that most agencies have. It's very interactive. It's a conversation, but still completing that knowledge element, keeping that teaching point. And really, it's a little bit of scenario based. It's a lot of experience from the job and how people can actually relate to it. It's not death by PowerPoint. It's not something that, people have heard over and over before. There's a lot that we talk about and we tap into that people really had no idea about. And again, those impact metrics are important. So I've really measured a lot of the feedback and what we're getting out of this. And there are people sometimes in the in the class that I know sometimes might be holding on by a thread. So we're also prepared for that. If I have to have somebody comes up to me and they're maybe in crisis and what we need to do, we're prepared for that. And then there's also individuals who have had family, coworkers, or friends that have taken their lives by suicide, and they come up to me afterward or speak to me later on a phone call, and they explain how there was so much that they didn't understand, that they didn't know, and having gone through this, they now have answers to a lot of unanswered questions, right? They have the understanding of how maybe this manifested and developed. Again, we don't agree with it, but it does give you a sense of understanding, and that brings a sense of closure and relief to some individuals. So, and moving forward.
You know what? It's better than nothing. It's better than nothing. Yes. How many minutes we got left?
About a minute or so.
Okay, so in the last minute, I want to thank Liz Pol for coming to us. Give out your contact info for anybody that's listening out there, may have a question or an agency that wants to contact you.
Yeah, it's Liz Pol. The number is 773-842-9784. And you can contact me via email as well. It's liz@resilientheroes.com. And the website is www.resilient-heroes.com.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for having
Listen
me.
to us next Friday. William Pelarenos signing off.
Thank you.
Twin Zeros at 4870 North Harlem Avenue in Harwood Heights, Illinois. Check out the full menu at twinzeros.com. Twin Zeros Restaurant in Harwood Heights not only serves traditional gyros, but also has chicken gyro sandwiches. Twin Zeros also serves a variety of sandwiches ranging from cheeseburgers and Vienna beef hot dogs that have recently been inducted into the Vienna Beef Hot Dog Hall of Fame. Italian beef, Italian sausage, and combo sandwiches. To ethnic favorites such as Slovaki and Grecian chicken. Slovaki is shish kebabs, specifically chicken or pork shish kebabs, grilled to perfection, served on a warm pita with tomatoes, onions, and our homemade tzatziki sauce. You can also enjoy barbecue ribs served every day. Twins is open 7 days a week and also delivers locally. Located at 4870 North Harlem Avenue in Harwood Heights. Check out the full menu at twinzeros.com. That's twinzeros.com.
Your hometown radio station since 1949. We are WRMN AM 1410, Elgin time, 1 o'clock.
With your 1410 WRMN Newsflash, I'm Sean Kernan. Brought to you by Sky Rizzi. A team from Naperville Central High School has taken first place in the Illinois Personal Finance